This is the 2023 Volkswagen Jetta, and its counterpart, the VW Golf, has graduated to the Mark 8 generation. However, VW's compact sedan continues to ride on the Mark 7 platform. But that doesn't mean it's been neglected. So today I'm going to review it, and let's see how it stacks up. So the standard Jetta comes in 4 distinct flavors. The S is the base model. Sport has replaced the R line from last year. SE and SEL. Now this is an SEL, the most expensive model, but the base model starts at $20,665, which is a very good price, and you can still get a manual 6-speed transmission. So I don't think the Jetta looks as good as the Golf, and it lacks some utility for having a hatchback, but on the other hand, I think VW has made this car look much better over the years, and it's a much more complete looking sedan. This creased hood, for example, certainly helps it to stand out from the rest of the crowd. And this SEL model gets these LED headlights and obviously a very familiar VW face. And then at the back it has better proportions and I think looks pretty cool. A little bit like the old Passat. This one gets these 17-inch rims, which are pretty cool. The 205/55s all around. They're all-season Nexen tires. Actually haven't heard of those, but they seem okay. So this one has a similar strut-type front suspension as the GLI, but in the back it has to make do with an old-fashioned torsion beam. But it is tuned for comfort. It's not a sports car. So if you want more power and speed, then get the GLI, and that's going to be a little bit more entertaining than this car. But having said that, you're going to spend a little bit more money. Now, this is a top-end car, SEL trim. It's $28,000 and change out the door. You're going to spend a little bit more money if you want a GLI. So all models get the same engine. It's a 1.5-liter turbocharged 4, borrowed from the VW Taos. Horsepower has gone up from 147 to 158, but torque remains the same at 184. Drives the front wheels only, and it's driven through an excellent 8-speed transmission. So with a curb weight of only 3,016 pounds versus the Taos, which weighs about 3,200, this one gets an advantage in acceleration. It scoots to 60 in around 7.1 seconds, which interestingly is faster than the turbocharged 1.5-liter Civic that can only manage 7.5 seconds. Now that might be down to the fact that that car has a CVT transmission. Fuel economy is excellent. On the highway, you'll get around 40 miles to the gallon. So as I mentioned before, you obviously don't get a hatch in this car. It's a conventional trunk lid. And you do get 14.1 cubic feet of space. You can put the seats down as well to poke longer items through. And then the good news is there is a donut spare as well in case you get into difficulties. So in the back, you get quite a lot of space. This seat is actually pulled all the way back. This one has the leather in the sort of brown and black trim. You do get a nice cup holder as well. Bit of a downside though, there's heated seats in the back, but there are no HVAC vents, which is a bit of a miss in an SEL top trim model. Seats are decently comfortable. You can't adjust them for back and forth, obviously, because there's a solid rear parcel shelf. But other than that, not a bad place to be. At the front, things are pretty decent too. These seats are pretty supportive, a little bit long in the leg, as is usually a VW problem, but they got good side and thigh bolstering, and in general, the materials are of a pretty good standard, and this wheel is also pretty nice. So for 2023, all models get digital instrumentation across the board. The base models up to the SEL get an 8-inch infotainment display. This one gets a 10.3-inch infotainment display. And good news is there are no horrible capacitive buttons, and the HVAC, it has actual physical HVAC controls, unlike the GTI and the R, though this is expected to change soon. If they change this back to how this car is, it'll make me very, very happy. Below that, you get a nice wireless charger. It's big enough for, well, even a small tablet almost, and it works through my phone case. Down here, you get stop, start, off, parking brake, and a number of blanks, which I'm not quite sure what they would work considering this is the top model. And if you press mode, you've got Eco, Normal, Sport, and Custom. And then this one, and you can adjust steering, drivetrain. We can make that sporty, ACC, sporty. Now this car's not going to get really sporty, but I'm going to put those on the sporty, and I like the way the steering feels in normal. More good news, you get a physical volume button knob and a physical tuning button. So much easier to use these kind of instruments and controls while you're actually driving. Down here there's a little bit of scratchy plastic, little spot for storage. I've got 2 cup holders, and then in the center armrest some decent space. This one does get a sunroof. I don't like sunroofs, but I like them even less when you get this weird hairnet instead of something a little bit more solid to stop the sun getting in. I can feel the heat coming through this, and Audi does it and VW does it, and it's really annoying. So VW Audi still makes some of the best digital instrumentation. I have mine set up with a gear selector in the middle of the tachometer, my range, I like to know how much fuel I've got, and then a speedo, a digital speedo, and a sort of an analog displayed via digital as well, fuel and temp on the right and the left. And more good news here, you've got actual buttons, so when you rest your finger or palm on there, the heated steering wheel doesn't come on, or you set the cruise control by accident. It all works. There was no need to change, and I'm glad that the Jetta still has this physical switches and buttons. Okay, let's drive it. So we're going to select S mode. I'm already in my custom mode that I set up earlier. Let's go see how this drives in its sportiest mode. Oh, it's pretty zippy off the line. And the suspension feels a little firmer than it was in some of the other modes that I tested earlier. Actually, it feels pretty good. All right, let's give it. Yeah, so you do get a little bit of wheel spin. We don't have the best tires on it, and there's quite a bit of torque kicks in at very low RPM, but I prefer a car that gets a move on and can get out of its own way than one that's like super sluggish. And I haven't felt any turbo lag either. This is a great little engine. It feels genuinely quick for a little engine, that 1.5 turbo 4-cylinder. We're going uphill right now. So I set the steering to be on its lightest. Beginning to regret that. I think maybe what I should have done is put it on a slightly stiffer setting. It's not bad, but compared to the rest of the car, which feels pretty hunkered down, it's a bit light. I could use just a little bit more weight. But rides really quietly. Little skip up there on that little sort of hump in the road. Impressive so far. I mean, VWs have always been really good at high-speed cruising on the freeway, and this one is no exception. Maybe what I'll do is stop, because I can't access that menu while I'm driving. I'll stop. I'll reset the steering to be heavier. Let's see how that works. Sounds like a VW, goes like a VW. It's surprisingly swift. And I'm pretty sure this engine has got more horsepower than they say on the label. Anyway, in the turns, there's definitely body roll. You can feel, but it feels pretty good on these awful road surfaces we have here in Southern California. Now, this car is entirely built in Mexico, probably one of the reasons why VW can keep it so cheap, but it feels well bolted together. I know that VWs have had electrical problems in the past, but I feel like the engine and transmission is pretty solid. Brakes feel good too. Obviously, you plow into a corner a little bit too quickly, and it's all safely contained with understeer. so you plow directly into a field of cows. Quiet inside too, a little bit of wind noise at these higher speeds, but genuinely a very pleasing cabin to be in. Engine gets a little noisy when you give it the beans, but it's a tiny engine, so what do you expect? You know, I love to be pleasantly surprised, and I certainly am. This thing gets a move on. And even with me, you know, flooring it and driving it fast, I'm sure I'm still going to get pretty decent gas mileage as well. All right, let me see if it lets me access this menu. Okay, adjust, steering, sport. Okay, steering's in sport now. Let's see what happens. All right. Okay, it hasn't made a huge difference. Just a tad heavier, and I think it works. Because this section's got some pretty tight bends, and I feel like a firmer steering action is going to be better. A little bit of jiggliness from the front, but that old torsion beam rear is getting us going around these corners without a problem. Now, they do that for one reason, and that's cost. The torsion beam costs less to produce than the multi-link system that you get on the GLI. And there's a little bit of hoppity in the back axle in some of these turns, but yeah, like I said, we're extending this car more than the average Jetta owner would. Kind of can't believe how cheap it is too. I mean, this SEL, if it was me, I would find the extra money and buy a GLI, but the sport model is less than 30, and you can get a stick shift. You know, that's a pretty good deal. Going downhill now, I feel working hard on the brakes here. Now, one thing that I also don't like, and this has happened to me before with an SEL VW, heated seats at the front, no cooled seats. I mean, come on, if you're going to sell a vehicle in Southern California as your top model, give it cooled seats. Initial bite on the brakes is actually quite strong. Little strange modulation required on the brake pedal, but as long as they stop you, not a problem. I'm impressed with this car's mid-range as well. It accelerates really nicely from like 40 all the way through 80. So even having it on the firmest settings that I could find, it's still quite soft and cushy. Even on these bad roads, it's soaking stuff up. All right, this is a really good left and a right. You can feel the body rolling. And these tires are not the best, really, I'll be honest. First of all, I've never heard of them, because normally VW put Bridgestones on their cars, which is my most hated tire. So far, these seem adequate for the job. But all in all, I am quite impressed with the driving capabilities of this car. You know, it's a solid effort from VW. So what do we think? Well, I'm pleasantly surprised by how well the 2023 VW Jetta drives. It really is a nice car to drive. And in a time when most new cars are averaging over $40,000, it's nice to be able to find something that's a decent car at a decent price. Anyway, once again, thanks for watching. We appreciate, like, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time with another video.